Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, says President Cyril Ramaphosa and Donald Trump will continue with bilateral trade discussions. That's, of course, after yesterday morning's telephone discussion between the two leaders in an effort to bolster trade. And, of course, it's all in the wake of those punishing tariffs, 30% imposed on South Africa. Newzroom Afrika's Zoleka Qodashe attended the post-cabinet briefing just earlier today, and she joins us now live. I know you're going to be in conversation with the Minister in the Presidency, Zoleka, but certainly echoing what the Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula had to say yesterday following an NEC briefing, a post-NEC meeting briefing yesterday. This is the NEC meeting of the weekend. But again, he was also very clear, he says, and the NEC was very clear about the country's transformation agenda not being up for discussion.
That's correct, Michelle. In fact, the Minister in the Presidency echoing those utterances by the ANC's Secretary-General that they would not they would not be deterred in relation to South Africa's transformation agenda. While the Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, has been briefing the media on the outcomes of that two-day cabinet meeting that took place on Tuesday and on Wednesday in relation to a variety of issues. But of course, it's more significant now that there are 30% tariffs that South Africa has been slapped with. I'm joined by the Minister now, and I'm just going to have a quick discussion with her about how South Africa intends to mitigate what could be a potential crisis. Minister, we know that there are about 30,000 jobs that are at risk across multiple sectors. Of course, we expect that the agricultural sector as well as the automotive sector are expected to be the hardest hit. We understand also that President Cyril Ramaphosa engaged with his counterpart in the United States about that looming deadline and the slapping of the 30% tariffs. Can you give us more information about the nature of this discussion, as well as if there's a deadline or a timeline by which these negotiations must have been completed?
Thank you for that. Maybe let me just clarify one point you raised, that the cabinet meetings took 2 days. No, it didn't. It was different days. We did not brief after the cabinet of the 22nd of July because we had to go to Parliament, if you remember, the vote. And then yesterday was another meeting. So the briefing included the decisions of those two meetings. In terms of... and you raised an issue around the transformation agenda of the country, and we said the transformation agenda is not the transformation for its own sake. It's a transformation as part of building a united, prosperous, non-racial, non-sexist South Africa. And that agenda, we cannot be deterred from. The amendments to our laws will be done in terms of us improving our tactics to achieving the overall goal of a prosperous, non-racial, non-sexist and equal South Africa, and that they will amend them as to bring them into speed with time, but also if our courts determine that those laws are in contravention with our constitution. And specific to the issues that you have raised, we are focused on the negotiations, and they've been continuing since May this year when we went to when the president took the working visit to the United States of America, and we have given various proposals to the USA. They've given us feedback, and we engage. And that most importantly, we continue to engage because there's always an understanding that if we reach a deal, those tariffs will be reviewed. And the president indeed continues to engage lead the engagement by talking directly to President Trump. This morning, it was the presidency announced that the president called President Trump yesterday in line around the negotiations, and that there must be room for more further engagement, and that room is there for engagement.
Minister, there's also various interventions that have been announced, particularly in the briefing by the joint briefing by the two ministers on Monday in relation to mitigating what could be a potential crisis and the shedding of these jobs. There's also talk about an export support desk. Are you able to shed more light?
So an export support desk is meant to support those industries and those companies that are directly affected, so that when you call for support to say, we have heard you've made this announcement, how can I be supported? You don't just call the details in general. So they've put through an export support desk that is dedicated, that you can then call that number or email that that address and say, I need this type of support, I need this type of clarification, and then they can reach out, so that you don't go all over. You then, there's a one-stop shop for the support for the impacted companies.
Minister, one of the other interventions is the localization fund support. That's also a way to mitigate what could be a crisis in relation to the 30% tariff. Tell us more about that, please.
Also, the Localization Support Fund is dedicated to support those industries and those companies that are directly affected to reorientate their production for as part of the localization national effort. Because remember, we are localizing our production, and we need to be supported. So that is dedicated to make sure those companies can be supported to reorientate their production for local market. And other markets. Local market and other markets.
Minister, we also understand that there is a branching of markets looking at certain regions like Africa, Europe, and Asia in order to kind of bridge that gap and fill that gap in the wake of these tariff hikes. Can you tell us at the moment, in terms of China and Nigeria, what is taking place there?
So we started the diversification effort when we wanted to make sure we expand to more markets. As you recall, I indicated China is the largest population in the world, so they are the biggest consumer of goods and services, and we wanted to make sure that we've got our products are in that market because they are the next growth frontier. Similarly, in Africa is the same with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. But specific to China, we then put a package together that includes 100 products that South African manufactured products that must be sold to China. China currently imports a lot of products from South Africa, but it's in agriculture and also it's in mining, what you call unprocessed. So we're looking at selling them final or processed goods from South Africa to their market. In Nigeria, we cannot talk of the African Free Continental Trade Area without our countries of Africa trading directly with each other. Nigeria is the biggest producer of oil in the African continent, and we've been over a number of years we've been making initiatives to make sure that we can buy oil directly from Nigeria, crude oil from Nigeria, and the follow-up to the BNC agreement by the Department of Petroleum and of Mineral Resources and Petroleum was to make sure we can finalize the acquisition of crude oil from Nigeria.
Minister, also finally, you mentioned as we were concluding that South Africa must enjoy its long weekend. Can we take it that there are discussions of a Friday off work?
The president is in the country, so he has not borrowed me and he has never made me acting president to declare a national holiday. You must lobby him to make me one. I would make the 9th of August a long weekend.
Thank you, Minister. That was Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, just speaking about some of the measures that have been agreed by the cabinet, in order to mitigate the crisis that may unfold and the 30,000 jobs that may be shed as a result of those 30% tariffs. Of course, we know that South Africa exports about 7.5% of goods to the United States, which of course translates to billions of dollars or rands for South Africa. So no doubt an important economic issue for the government of the country. But for now, it's back to you in studio.